Have you ever put so much effort into something, poured in your energy, time, and dedication, and still nothing seemed to change? Have you ever felt that quiet frustration of doing everything right, only to remain stuck in the same place, as if the universe just wasn't listening? Meanwhile, there are people who apparently do less, struggle less, and yet everything seems to flow with ease. They achieve results effortlessly, as if life itself were silently cooperating with their steps. The truth is, there's something deeper happening behind the reality you experience. A subtle code, invisible to the eye, yet powerful enough to shape your entire world. And this code doesn't respond to physical effort. It responds to what you observe, to how you see, how you feel, and where you place your attention, day after day, moment by moment. Today, we're going to break one of life's biggest myths, the idea that effort alone is enough to create change. You'll come to understand that, in reality, it's your intentional observation that creates the field where possibilities begin to emerge. It's not about how hard you fight, it's about the quality of the state of consciousness from which you act. This understanding can change everything, because when you learn to observe with clarity, presence, and intention, the world around you begins to reorganize. Reality bends to meet your conscious gaze. Get ready to see what's always been there, but in a completely new light. The myth of effort as the only source of results. From an early age, we're conditioned to believe that physical effort is the only legitimate path to achieving anything in life. This belief is deeply rooted in our culture, in our education systems, in the stories we hear and repeat. Phrases like "no pain, no gain," or "if you don't fight, you don't win," are repeated like mantras. And slowly, we internalize the idea that the more we sacrifice, the more worthy we'll be of something. This collective programming has led us to develop an almost obsessive relationship with action. We've learned to measure our worth by how much we produce, by how many tasks we complete, by the exhaustion we feel at the end of the day. Fatigue became a medal, struggle became an identity, and effort, no matter how disconnected or empty, was given the status of virtue. But there's a question that few dare to ask. What if all of this is incomplete? What if we've been focusing only on the external side of the equation, completely ignoring the most powerful part of creation, the inner, vibrational, and conscious side? The universe doesn't automatically respond to the amount of effort we exert. It responds to the quality of the energy behind that effort. That's why so many people work hard, follow the formulas, plan, act, try everything, and still get nowhere. Because they're acting from an internal space that's out of alignment, often driven by fear, anxiety, doubt, or scarcity. And when action comes from that place, it carries a frequency that, instead of opening paths, ends up blocking them. To act without observing is like rowing against the current. You exhaust yourself, but don't move forward. Effort without conscious direction is like shooting an arrow into the dark. It might hit something, but more often than not, it leads to confusion instead of results. Observation, on the other hand, is the silent force that organizes the field before any movement takes place. It's the vibrational alignment that precedes manifestation. When you observe with clarity, with focus, with genuine intention, you send a coherent signal to the universe. A signal that doesn't come from the fear of failure, but from the quiet conviction that, on some level, it's already done. This doesn't mean effort is unnecessary. Action is still part of the process, but it comes afterward as a natural consequence of an already prepared, already aligned inner field. When observation is clear, action becomes light, fluid, almost inevitable. You don't act to force a result. You act because you're already connected to it. Many spiritual teachers, scientists, and modern thinkers have been pointing to this truth in different ways. Quantum physics has already shown that the observer influences the behavior of matter. This means that the simple act of observing, with presence, with intention, alters the way reality unfolds. In other words, before you try to move the world with your hands, perhaps you need to move the world with your eyes. As long as we remain trapped in the belief that effort is everything, we ignore the most creative part of our nature. Our conscious mind, the vibration we emit, the frequency we hold as we do what we do. That is what truly transforms. The myth of effort as the only source of results is falling apart. And with it, a new path is opening. The path of inspired action, born from aligned observation. Once you understand this, you realize you don't have to fight so hard against life. Instead, you learn to look at it with new eyes. Eyes that know, feel, and trust. And in that gaze, real change begins. Observation is the invisible code of reality. There is a quiet, yet immensely powerful point from which all reality begins to take shape. Observation. Yes, the simple act of observing, with presence, intention, and emotion, carries within it the seed of manifestation. Few people grasp this deeply because we've been trained to believe that what shapes the world is only what we do with our hands, our bodies, and our sweat. But the universe doesn't respond solely to external actions. It responds, above all, to the vibration we emit as we observe life unfolding. Observation is the invisible code that organizes the quantum field around us. Whatever you consistently keep in the focus of your attention begins to structure itself energetically. When you observe with intention, not just looking, but truly focusing, feeling, contemplating, you activate a frequency. And that frequency has a direct impact on the possibilities that begin to emerge around you. Quantum physics offers a powerful key to understanding this. In the famous double-slit experiment, scientists observed that a subatomic particle behaves differently when it is being watched. When no one is observing, it behaves like a wave, with infinite possibilities. But the moment a conscious observer steps in, the particle chooses a path, collapsing the wave into a single reality. In other words, the observer influences the behavior of matter. This discovery shook the foundations of traditional science because it revealed something profound. Consciousness affects physical reality, and if that happens in the subatomic world, it also happens on a larger scale. The difference is, in our lives, the effects aren't as instant or visible. They build up over time, gradually taking form, crystallizing as we continue to observe, often without even noticing. The way you observe the world, then, is not neutral. It's filled with meaning, beliefs, emotions, and expectations. And all of that acts as a filter that determines not only what you perceive, but also what you attract. If you observe reality through the lens of lack, all you see is what's missing. If you observe through fear, all that stands out are threats. But if you observe with presence and trust, the field responds with opportunities. It's not magic. It's vibrational coherence. Energy follows focus. And focus is, essentially, what you emotionally observe on a regular basis. The difference between merely looking and truly observing lies in the depth of your connection with what you're contemplating. A superficial glance doesn't create reality, but an intense observation, filled with intention and emotion, has the power to restructure the field around you. Many people live in a state of automatic observation. They react to what they see in the world without realizing that, by keeping their focus on it, they're reinforcing exactly what they don't want. They remain stuck in a cycle of observing the problem, feeling the pain, attracting more of the same, repeating the pattern. And they don't understand why nothing ever changes. The key is to break that cycle through conscious observation. When you begin to redirect your inner gaze, not just toward what's outside, but toward what you want to activate vibrationally, something starts to shift. You realize you have more power than you thought, that before anything moves on the physical plane, there must first be alignment on the subtle plane. Reality isn't something that just happens to you. It's something that responds to you. And the first language it listens to isn't your words or your actions, it's the energy of your gaze. That's why the more aware you are of what you observe and how you observe, the more power you have to transform your life. Your outer reality is an extension of your inner reality, and your inner reality is shaped, moment, by what you choose to observe with intensity. Once you understand this, you begin to observe differently. You begin to create differently. Because in the end, the change you seek isn't out there. It's in the eyes through which you see. Aligned effort versus disconnected effort. Not all effort is created equal. While we've been culturally conditioned to glorify any kind of hard work, the truth is there's a profound difference between effort born from an aligned state of consciousness and that which comes from a disconnected one. This difference is often invisible to the eye, but deeply felt in the results, or the lack of them. Disconnected effort stems from urgency, from anxiety, from the fear of failure. It doesn't come from clarity, it comes from pressure. You act because you feel that if you don't do something now, everything will fall apart. You move, but without direction. It's like running inside a dark maze. Lots of motion, very little awareness, and almost no real progress. This kind of effort is exhausting because it demands constant energy without offering the vibrational return that makes it sustainable. Someone living in this mode is almost always trying to fix reality, as if it's broken. Their actions are driven by scarcity, comparison, or the need to prove something to the world or to themselves. And even though they're constantly on the move, their inner energy is vibrating out of alignment. They may be busy all the time, but that doesn't mean they're creating anything that truly reflects their deeper desires. Aligned effort, on the other hand, comes from a completely different place. It arises from inner stillness, from a clear sense of purpose, from connection with something that's already been seen and felt internally. Action doesn't come as an attempt to control the outer world, but as a natural extension of inner alignment. There's no resistance, no fight against the current. There is direction, purpose, and a quiet certainty guiding every step. When observation is aligned with what you want to create, effort stops being a burden and becomes a channel. You feel that you're collaborating with the universe, not struggling against it. Ideas flow more easily. The right people show up. Opportunities reveal themselves. Not because you're forcing things to happen, but because you're tuned into the field where they already exist. This kind of action doesn't mean the absence of work or dedication. It means the presence of coherence. Mind, heart, and energy all pointing in the same direction. When that happens, every step has real impact. You may do less in quantity, but everything you do reaches farther. It's common to see people trying to act while they're emotionally out of sync. They try to fix financial problems while vibrating in scarcity. They try to save relationships while radiating rejection and hurt. They try to start a project while doubting their own capability. The result is always the same: frustration, a sense of swimming against the current, and often a deep feeling of failure. But when action comes after a moment of alignment, it's different. The person has already observed, internally, the reality they want to live. They've already felt it. They've already touched the vibration of it. And so, when they act, they're not chasing something. They're expressing something that already exists within them. That difference changes everything. Life doesn't demand blind effort. It invites conscious movement. The universe responds more quickly when it senses that action is coming from a place that is clear, centered, and confident. And that's exactly why, so often, less action, when taken from the right place, is worth more than countless scattered attempts. It's essential, then, to learn how to feel before you act, to observe clearly before deciding, to align internally before moving externally. When you do that, effort becomes a natural expression of your state of consciousness, and reality, once resistant, begins to open up. Not because you fought harder, but because you finally started acting from a place of truth. How to know if your observation is attracting or blocking? Observation is a creative force, but it can also be a blocking one, depending on where it's being directed. Understanding this is essential if you want to transform your reality from the inside out. Most people believe they are clearly desiring something, but what they're actually doing is intensely observing exactly what they don't want. And the universe, which responds to vibration, not surface-level desire, simply mirrors that unconscious focus. The central question here is, what are you really observing with presence and emotion throughout your day? Because it's not just about what you want, it's about where your attention rests most frequently and deeply. Often we're so conditioned to focus on problems, lack, and obstacles that we don't even realize how much we're feeding those patterns with the power of our awareness. Observing obstacles, limitations, fears, or scarcity isn't just a logical thought pattern. It's something that shows up as a feeling. You might be telling yourself you believe in abundance, for example, but if opening your bank account makes you feel tight, frustrated, or afraid, that means you're observing, vibrationally, absence. And it's that emotional observation that informs the field. That's what creates magnetism. The universe responds precisely to what you observe with conviction. It doesn't matter how often you say what you want. What matters is what you feel is true while you observe. If your attention is caught on what hasn't happened yet, on what's going wrong, on what's missing, no matter what your words say, you're emitting a blocking frequency. In that case, observation acts like a lens that distorts the desired reality and keeps the undesired one active. But how can you actually tell whether your observation is attracting or blocking? The answer lies in your immediate emotional experience. When you think about something you desire and feel relief, inspiration, enthusiasm, or peace, your observation is aligned. You're in coherence with what you want to create. But if thinking about the same thing brings anxiety, doubt, frustration, or urgency, that's a sign you're observing the absence of it, not its presence. True observation isn't just a mental gaze. It's an internal state of vibrational contemplation. It's how you see the world from within. And that inner vision is constantly being translated into frequency. You might be smiling on the outside and saying all the right words, but if inside you're tense, then your observation is blocking. This demands a much deeper level of honesty and presence than we're used to. It requires a sensitive awareness of yourself. You have to learn to observe what you're observing, to become aware of your own lens. Because the field doesn't respond to scattered wishes or empty affirmations. It responds to the ongoing vibration being emitted by your emotional focus. If you're more anchored in lack than in possibility, that's what you're drawing near, even if unconsciously. The key, then, is to shift your observation toward what you want to see grow. And it's not enough to repeat positive thoughts. You must feel the truth of them. That's when observation begins to attract instead of block. When you're able to keep your attention firmly anchored in what you wish to create, without constantly slipping into the temptation of observing its absence, the field begins to change. Reality subtly begins to reorganize. You'll start to notice this realignment in small signs: a greater sense of lightness, unexpected synchronicities, doors opening without effort, ideas arriving with clarity. All of these are reflections of an observation that has become coherent with abundance, flow, and alignment. How to shift the field through directed observation. Changing your reality begins by changing the way you observe. That might sound overly simple, but it's one of the most profound and transformative truths of existence. Observation is the starting point of creation. It's what communicates to the quantum field, the invisible reality that gives rise to everything, which frequencies should be activated and brought into form. When you observe something with intention and emotion, you're sending out a vibrational command. That command, silent and unseen, is what shapes the pathways through which your life begins to reorganize. Most people observe the world reactively. They respond to what's already happening, observe what has already manifested, and form their thoughts, feelings, and decisions based on that. But this way of observing only reinforces what already is. It's like taking a photo of the same landscape every day and expecting it to change on its own. The true power of observation lies in learning to direct your gaze toward what's not yet visible, but already real in potential. Shifting the field begins with an inner move, pausing the automatic observation and stepping into the role of conscious co-creator. You must pause and ask yourself honestly, what have I been observing most often? What am I keeping alive through my focus? This self-inquiry is the first step toward redirecting the energy you may be feeding without realizing it. Once you recognize that your attention has been fixed on lack, absence, fear, or doubt, the next step is to deliberately choose where to redirect your inner gaze. The question isn't just, what do I want, but what do I want to see grow? Because whatever you observe with intention grows, not by force, but through vibration. This new way of observing requires consistency. Reality, as a reflection, responds to what is held with vibrational continuity. That's why creating small daily rituals of intentional observation can be an incredibly powerful tool. Moments of pause where you consciously choose to tune in to the image of the reality you want to live. You can do this when you wake up, before bed, or during key transitions throughout the day. Times when your mind is more open and receptive. The secret here isn't just visualizing, it's observing with feeling. You're not creating a fantasy, you're connecting to a frequency. You're telling the field, this is what I choose to experience. This is the vibration I choose to anchor. And when that choice is made with emotional conviction, the field begins to respond. Sometimes subtly, sometimes surprisingly, but always precisely. A simple practice you can do every day is to choose one area of your life you want to transform and spend 5 minutes simply observing it with intention and emotion as if it were already manifested. During that time, don't doubt, don't analyze, don't question. Just observe with your heart as if you were witnessing a reality that is already yours. The more you repeat this practice, the more natural it will become, and the stronger the signal you'll send to the field. The mind may resist at first. It may try to convince you that nothing's changed, that it's just your imagination. But this is where mastery begins, keeping your observation steady even in the face of opposite appearances. Because the field doesn't respond to appearances, it responds to the constancy of vibration. When you keep your gaze locked onto the desired reality, even when everything around you says otherwise, you're building, from the inside out, the foundation of a new manifestation. With time, this practice begins to produce noticeable shifts. External situations start to reorganize. New ideas emerge. Different people appear. Unexpected solutions present themselves. And you realize that you're not forcing reality. You're co-creating with it from a place of clarity. Shifting the field through directed observation is, at its core, about remembering that you have the power to choose what to keep alive within you. And that choice, repeated daily, with intention, transforms the world around you. Because the universe doesn't deliver what you ask for with words. It delivers what you observe as truth. The new action, less struggle, more clarity. For a long time, we were taught that achieving anything in life required a fight, to push through, to overcome obstacles with strength and persistence. The idea that struggle is the only path to success was repeated so often it became a collective paradigm. But a new field of understanding is emerging, a more subtle, yet infinitely more powerful awareness, revealing something essential. The most transformative action doesn't come from exhaustion, but from clarity. The new action doesn't arise from fear of falling behind. It doesn't come from the urgency to fix something. It emerges from an inner state of alignment, where clarity of purpose replaces the need for blind effort. In this new way of living and creating, you understand that it's not about doing more, but about doing with consciousness, acting from a place where the desired reality already exists within you. This doesn't mean abandoning action, quite the opposite. It means acting with elevated intention, with inner focus. When clarity is the foundation, action becomes fluid, focused, effective. You don't move from impulse or desperation. You move from inspiration. And inspiration is a direct response from the field when your vibration aligns with what you wish to manifest. Clarity has the power to open doors that effort alone never could. How many times have you felt stuck in the face of too many options, trying to decide which step to take, while deep down you knew you weren't truly resonating with what you wanted? In those moments, what you need isn't more movement, it's more vision, more alignment. Because when clarity arrives, the next step almost reveals itself. The problem with acting without clarity is that you pour energy into directions that don't support what you truly want. You try, start over, get frustrated, get tired, and often end up concluding that it's just not meant for you. But the truth is, the issue wasn't the action itself. It was the vibrational state from which it originated. Without clarity, you try to compensate with effort. And the harder you push, the further away your desire seems to be. Clarity, on the other hand, is a quiet kind of power. It doesn't shout, demand, or pressure, but it has the ability to reorganize everything around you. When you are in clarity, you send a clean signal to the universe. A signal that says, I know what I want, I trust, I'm ready. And that signal attracts matching circumstances. Life begins to deliver pieces that fit, meetings that make sense, opportunities that feel like they're coming to meet you effortlessly. That's the beauty of this new kind of action. It's not driven by lack, but by inner abundance. You don't act to fill a void. You act because you're already full. You're not moving to chase something outside of you, but to express what already exists within. That's a profound shift. And when it happens, everything changes. You start to realize that what once felt distant is actually closer than you thought. Because when you act with clarity, you become compatible with the reality you desire. And that compatibility is your true power. The universe doesn't operate by merit or sacrifice. It operates by frequency. And clarity is one of the most magnetic frequencies there is. So if you feel like you're fighting too hard, maybe you don't need more force. Maybe you need more inner silence, more listening, more vision. Because often the next step doesn't appear because you're still caught in the noise of doubt, comparison, and fear. But when the noise quiets, even for a moment, something greater can reveal itself. The new action is born there, in the space between noise and clarity, in that subtle pause where you're no longer trying to control everything, but are ready to collaborate with the intelligence of the universe. And it's in that lucid surrender that the greatest manifestations occur. The clarity of your observation is worth more than 1,000 hours of blind effort. That's not just a poetic phrase, it's vibrationally true, because the universe responds more powerfully to your state of consciousness than to your scattered attempts. And once you understand this, you begin to act less out of obligation and more out of direction, less out of fear and more out of truth, less out of struggle and more from the light you carry within. We've reached the end of our journey, and now you know, reality doesn't respond to your physical effort. It responds to the silent energy of your observation. It's not about how much you do, but the state of consciousness from which you do it. It's the clarity of your inner gaze that activates the path, not the urgency of your steps. You can keep trying to control everything with your hands, or you can begin to transform everything with your eyes. Not the eyes that see the world outside, but the ones that feel and project reality from within. The force that moves the world lies in your ability to observe with intention, presence, and conviction. So here's a challenge. For the next 24 hours, choose to observe only what you want to see grow. Don't fall into the trap of appearances. Stay focused on what you want to experience, and watch what begins to change. Remember, reality doesn't bow to exhaustion. It bows to the energy of your gaze.